So do you have you just do you have questions you want to
Yeah,
go?
I wrote up
Do you want to
some.
ask me or? Yeah,
Yeah, I wrote up some. Now I don't know how much time you have, but
yeah. There's one thing I should bring up. Yeah, I don't. Well, I figured I definitely have an hour before I have something else happens. Yeah, before something else explodes. Okay.
welcome back to the next episode of The Voice Artist. But today we have the most important and special guest I think I've had on so far, Mr. Lawrence. Yeah, that guy.
Hello. Let's get that out of the way. He's the guy who does that thing.
He does the
Got
thing.
it.
Yep. Yeah, pretty much. What other voices
Yeah.
have you done before? Because that was what I'm first going to do, a showcase of some of your favorite voices throughout the years. Because you don't only
Yeah,
continue
yeah. Well,
SpongeBob either.
yeah. No, I did other things. I just never did. I kind of got stuck in one place doing voices in a way because because I do other things. I'm not out there as a voice guy looking for voice work all the time. I'm kind of like in my regular job, and then voice work comes up. Hey, we want to use you for this or whatever. And then in a lot of cases, I write my own things that I'm doing. So yeah, I'm writing the characters, and then decide, oh, maybe I should play that character because that's sort of in my range or seems like a funny idea for me to do, or I'll just do the voice of the character when we're looking at the storyboards and the scripts, and it'll come out, and then they'll sort of be like, oh yeah, you should just it sort of just becomes decided, yeah, you could do that guy. So it's usually comes out of me already being on the show as a writer or director, and then somebody says, hey, let's have Doug do something voice wise. Filburt the Turtle was my first break on Rocko, Rocko's Modern Life.
Love that show.
So Filburt, yeah, hi, and and what I auditioned with him pretty much had something to the effect of him saying, him going over his ailments. And he said, oh, my eyes hurt very much, and I have fiddler crabs in my stool. And that's what got me the job. Fiddler crabs in my stool.
What a story to tell.
Yeah, I always remember it. It was on that initial tape I made of it. Basically, it was just me joking around with that voice. They had not found anybody yet.
I think I heard
and
a
I was on the shows. Yeah.
Joe was listening to a bunch of tapes of people to do it, and you left it in anonymous, and he's like, who's that? Who's
That's
that
right.
guy? And they're shit, it's
That's
Doug.
what happened, yeah. Yeah. That's what it was. And then they had to have a big powwow to decide if we should allow him to to do this because he's already a director on the show. So, is that going to interfere? So they asked me, do you think it'll interfere? I said, no. Because I was just excited that they that might happen. And then like I said, it was one of those things that I just do from show to show. I jump around. There's things I did that I don't remember really. There's things I worked on. I remember all my characters from, like Larry the Lobster, and whatever else I do on that show. I do Rube, who's a new character, who's sort of based on Hauser, and everything to him was amazing. I like that guy a lot.
I love that character.
Yeah, me too. That was the newest one that came up that I was so excited that we were going to keep using him because he was only in one episode.
It was a Twilight special, right?
Yeah, it was a Twilight, the title zone. That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Very good.
I'm a nerd, so I kind of know these things.
Yeah. No, that's great. Helps me remember because I go, is that it? Yeah, that's it. Because there's so many things we do, but that one, that character was a newer one, and then we used him in the big 20th anniversary special, and then
that was a great one.
and now we're just adding him to the universe more when we can because he's just silly and fun, and he's always happy. I love that there's, we have lots of cynical characters because they're the most fun.
Yeah.
And characters that are curmudgeons and characters that are jerks, are always fun to play with. But I like a character every so often that's just completely positive in the SpongeBob kind of a way. Another guy who nothing phases and doesn't ruffle him, and I like guys like that.
Yeah, I love Rube, and I thought he was a great addition to that episode, which, speaking of which, was amazing, and I think people have actually considered it one of the best modern SpongeBob episodes done. And
Yeah, I heard that.
you and Kaz did that one, right?
Yeah, we wrote that one. We wrote it as we'd write everything, kind of as a group. There's a group of the writing group gets together, and we sort of break stories down and decide kind of how they should go. But there's always room to change and move and, be creative through every process that we have. So it's sort of, we make the process loose fitting so that there's always room to improve stuff. So that before it leaves our hands in every stage, there's always, oh, wait a minute. That'd be funnier if it was to the left. Or, oh, wait a minute, you could put that sound in. Or, oh, wait a minute, let's change it to a horse. Whatever it is, those things become... to not set it in stone at the top. That's why we always considered ourselves really a comedy show, because it's really about cramming as many jokes in that are, has to be coming from character in most cases. But that's really our goal always, is to make it jam-packed so that you didn't like that joke. Here's another one,
You've been writing on the show since the beginning, right?
Yep.
What were some of the favorite episodes you've written?
I liked a lot of the stuff. I mean, it's kind of weird because I was on it for a while. I was off it for a while, but I was on it right at the beginning, and helping develop it. And then once I was away for it for a while, and then I came back for another huge chunk of time. And my favorite stuff has been the stuff we've been writing recently, just because we just did it, so anything we just did is more exciting and, and shiny and sparkly.
Shiny and new.
Yeah. But the stuff at the beginning was fun. I mean, I really liked the first one I wrote. The first one I actually had to put pen to paper to start writing something was the Scaredy Pants episode. We happened to start, we didn't know what to do yet. So it was like, the network definitely wants its Halloween show. So we said, okay, so I'll just start, we'll start coming up with something for a Halloween show. And that's the one I remember the most vividly from the beginning, besides like Frankendoodle, which was, I think, a season later, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I think so. I think it was season.
That's the one where I'm in. Yeah, that's the one where I'm in the boat as the artist who drops his magic pencil.
What's this? My pencil.
That I remember because we had to go do that out at Dana Point in California here, out on the is at the Oceanographic Institute, I believe, and they have a pier there. They used to have, I don't think it's there anymore, but they used to have when we shot that, there was a big pirate ship there. And so I was in a rowboat right off the dock with a, frogman waiting nearby for me to drown. He's going to do it. He's going to drown.
They were hoping.
I'm like, I could swim. I'm fine. So, but they had to have somebody, somebody had to be watching. It was just silly.
Yeah.
But very fun. To do. That was another good one that I remember. So that was it. So that day was a lot of fun shooting that. We shot that like early in the morning till sundown. We were there.
That's cool.
Yeah, we've done a lot of live action shoots. Those are always fun. Like the one we did for the 20th anniversary thing that took months to do that, and it was crazy.
That one was definitely one of my favorites, and how I know Steve passed away around that time. How much involvement did he have in the special? Or how much was he there for the taping?
Yeah, he was there. He was definitely there. It was something we were still kind of in the middle of things. Him being there was he was there pretty much till that last time, till that Thanksgiving. He was sort of just whenever he could be around watching what was going on, he got involved. But he was not as involved as he was at the beginning of the show. Yeah. It was different. It was different in the last few years.
Well, how did you react to the first time he left after the movie? Like, what were your thoughts on it?
Well, I was already gone. I had already left. So I didn't even know he had left or that the show had shut down until he called me and said they're making a movie and you know, and wanted me to get involved, you know, from that point. And I had left the show already to do something I was doing in MTV. So I was on the show for the first 3 years, and then I left for the MTV thing. And who knows what that was, but but I was doing that, you know. But I was doing that, and then the movie came up, and I was at Warner Brothers when the movie came up, making shorts and things for that movie, Looney Tunes. Was it Back in Action? Is that what it was called?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. So I was working on that and doing stuff on that. So I was under contract, so I couldn't leave to go work on the movie, even though I would be doing voices on the movie. Yeah. But I went to meetings and sat in and gave my opinion during the early stages of the movie. So that was fun.
Do you know why they ever changed Neptune? Because that's been like a big fan mystery.
Changed it? How do you mean?
Well, like in the show, like with Neptune Spatula, there was the big, strong, bearded one, but then in the movie there was Mindy and bald Neptune.
That's right. Yeah.
Why did they change that?
I think the main reason was for them at the time was when you make a movie, and we found this out from the other movies we've made. The movie wants something different, like the people at the places at these places. They want you to make up new things. So it's their movie. Then it's their, you know, they're kind of then they're participating in these characters. They can make toys of those characters. They're participating in the I assume the money and everything that's connected to. So when they get to the movies, they always want to have new characters that aren't from the show. And so it was decided to do that character, but of course that was more of a, from what I remember, it was more of a studio thing that we want, you know, we want it to be a different, it's Neptune, but we want it to be different. And they've called him Neptune, and then they've also said Poseidon. So I know those two things are really similar, but I think they've named both of those things one or the other. I think one was named Poseidon at one point, and one was named, and then Neptune's the one we always use, though. We rarely say Poseidon, but we've used it. I don't. That's one of those things that that's when it's a movie, there's new rules. That's always the case. Even though you're playing off the old rules and trying to bring it from a TV show to a movie, you're still dealing with a new set of people who are making notes on what the movie is. So they'll want, so you never know what you're dealing with on a movie. The TV show goes along, and you're kind of dealing with the same people giving you notes and people from the network that that are part of that process, and you get to know them, and you're there all the time. In a movie, it's new sets of people all the time. So it's always a new thing, because you have to please different people as well as the audience.
Yeah.
No way out.
Nope. But kind of related to that, what was the difference working on a static cling compared to the show? Or were there any of the people working on it different, or a lot of the same? Martin I know worked on it. So Joe got the offer to do something with Rocko, and then I hadn't talked to Joe in a long time. I hadn't seen him or nothing in years. So it was really weird, just out of nowhere. I think it was even LinkedIn. I think that's how he found me. And I'm like, huh? Is this really Joe? I was like that. Is this you? It's not you. And then he got me on Facebook, and he asked me if I wanted to meet. So it was me and him and Martin Olson, and we just got together, and just the question was, should we bother doing this? That was the meeting. The meeting wasn't, oh boy, I can't wait to do this. It was, should we bother with this? Is this something we need to be bothering? Who does anyone care? But we had just done a couple of live show things where we saw that there was a big fan base out there for it, and we thought, well, if people want to see it, they're asking you to do it. Maybe there's a reason to do it. So we kept thinking it through, and instantly we did what we did back then, which was we were always putting stuff that happened to us in real life into the show, so anything that bugged us or something we had frustrations about, we'd make it happen to Rocko, and that was our way into that show. So we did the same thing again. We were just sitting there talking, going, oh, you
you could do this with a smartphone. We didn't, he'd go crazy with the smartphone. That'd be really funny. And, just little ideas started to emerge about drones. We were just talking about things that are around now that weren't around then,
Yeah.
And all of those things had started to grow hairy jokes that were funny. And we just went, that's it. That works. So we're laughing. And then we're looking at each other. I guess we could do it. I guess we should do it. So it turned into, Joe didn't want to do more episodes. He said he was offered to do more episodes, and he said, let's just do a movie and, one big story, something or other. And then that was it. And then we took off from there, wrote it. The same people were on it. Certain people who were heads of stuff, like Adriana Galvez, who was one of our great background painters. She was doing background stuff for it. And other guys that were around, who either did timing, wherever Joe could grab people from the past of the show, he was trying to get everybody back. And some people just couldn't, because they were stuck in places they couldn't get away. Joe, I know, was, at the time, it was even, like I was even thinking about directing it at one point. But there was just where I was at that time wouldn't allow it. Whereas if I'd done it a year before, you know what I mean? It would have worked out. It was just one of those things where I'm like, oh, that would be great, but I can't. I'm immersed in SpongeBob right now, but I could write it. We wrote it on the weekends. We wrote it over a series of Saturdays, over a couple months, and we just kept getting together for long periods of time and talking about everything that's happening in the world and how can we get it into the show. So it was pretty fun. It was a pretty cool thing. And then there were also the greatest part of it was there was new guys who came in who were so into Rocko from the past, and they were young cartoonists ready to tackle it. And so they really brought the same, the timing of it all was like it was like we were always pushing to do. And I think they nailed the feeling of that show completely from the past. I was really, surprised at how close it came.
Yeah.
To looking like what
great.
we did.
I loved it.
Yeah. And it was just funny. I just thought, as long as it's funny, I don't, I'll forgive everything if it's funny.
I can move along with that. Yeah. I can feel the same thing. What was it like getting back in the recording booth with Charlie and Tom and
Oh, that was the best part. Yeah,
Carlos.
that was actually that was so much fun because we back when the show started, we things were different. We weren't we were hungry guys trying to do whatever, and trying stuff and going crazy and stuff. And we all had our own idiosyncrasies and everything. And Charlie was a big time voiceover guy. Charlie was like, look out, when he'd come in, and we were all just started doing this. We were all new to doing voices. So it was kind of a thing. And I remember, because we joke about this all the time, and he hates it when I bring it up, but it's true. And it's so funny, which is that he really would come in. He came in and did stuff with us, but he couldn't take how long it was taking for us to do our stuff and get our lines together. So he's like, so eventually he was coming in by himself and doing all his lines on his own. Yeah, he would come in before us and he would do his stuff. So we'd wait for him to do his lines and get out. And he regretted it years later, because we'd see him and then he wasn't really watching the show. And then all of a sudden he started watching it and he saw how good it was and he saw how funny it was. And he didn't realize what we were like. He thought it was funny, but he wasn't sure what we were about. And then he was more apt to come in and record with us more often when he got the chance, when he saw that the show was actually really worth it. Because he was he was on so many shows at the same time, he couldn't really pick favorites. But all of a sudden he picked a favorite because he thought the show was really funny. And he's so funny, and he's the sweet. Now any chance we get to see him and hang out with him, or be on a plane with him, as I've been lucky enough to be at a few times. He's just fun. I just love being around him. He's constantly having, it's just constant jokes and fun and making fun of everything. And he'll speak up loud, and he's one of my favorite guys to work with, and just to spend some time with on the side. He's in, you know what I mean? He's fun in either thing. And now we're just so happy to see each other when we see each other that doing that was one of the most fun. We did that. That was like 2 straight weeks, I think, of voiceover for that movie. And we just couldn't get going sometimes. We were laughing so hard at each other. I mean, just and saying horrible, awful, horrible things to each other, especially Charlie. He's the
I've heard your conversations the live panels and shit. That's great.
He's the best. He is so funny and so great, and I love everything. Anytime, like I said, anytime we get a chance to do this, and then Tom, of course, is one of my oldest friends. Carlos is one of my oldest friends. So it's those live things we did. I'd like to do more of those, primarily for what you just said now, which is that what you just reminded me of, which is on the SpongeBob stuff, we can't really curse. You know what I mean? We can't say whatever we want, but at the Rocko shows, it's not kids. Yeah. It's younger guys, it's college guys and older. And so it's fair there game. We could say whatever. Yeah, then you could say whatever the fuck you want.
My kind of people.
Bleep me out. Yeah.
Do you want me to bleep you out? I'll do it.
Yeah. No, please. It doesn't. You know what I mean? I rather them in some cases come after me, for stuff like that. There's things of me cursing on YouTube as Plankton and stuff.
I know. That. I took one of them and I turned it into an animation.
That's right. You did the animation. That's right. That's right. I'm sorry. I forgot.
Every fucking day.
That's it. That's the one. That was an interview by my. Who was it? Who interviewed me? Might have been a friend. I think who interviewed me for that.
It was funny as hell.
That's it. Oh, thanks.
I think that was the first time I ever saw what you looked like, because that was around the time I was really getting into trying to make connections and find out who made what my childhood was. And
yeah, me too. I know what you mean. Am I sitting in the throne in that?
Yes.
In that?
Is that a throne? Is it a fucking throne?
It's a real fucking throne.
You know what? I have one in my house too.
It's a prop. It's kind of a prop. Yeah, it's people have used it, borrowed it many times for short films and things like that. And I've just had it a long time. A place was closing and getting rid of stuff, and I was lucky enough to be there that day.
The throne.
Yeah, it's really cool. Yeah, it's in the other room. It's pretty cool.
Nice. Well, that's awesome. Now, I saw that, and I saw your little skit, The Voice, where I think it was Tom, not Tom Kenny. Tom, what's his name from Back to the
Tom Wilson.
Tom Wilson.
Yeah.
Got that really disgusting microphone, and then Joe Holly was like, "Do the voice, do the voice."
That's right.
That one was funny.
Yeah, that was. That's. Have you ever seen the full version of that, or did you see a clip?
I think I saw the full version of it. It was
full version. Yeah, it's on Vimeo. Yeah, if you ever want to see any of those other shorts I have, they're on there. And like I said, a lot of those shorts also, they're adult themes. They're not, when I make something on my own, I'm usually not trying to make a kid thing, because I make kid stuff all the time.
I know.
So it's sort of
You're the kind. I from everything I've seen, just watched Comic-Con panels and stuff. Carol and Lawrence had to yell at you because you were in Plankton's voice, "I like the dirty memes." And it's like, Doug.
There's a lot of dirty ones. You've seen it.
They're fucking hilarious.
Yeah, they're so funny. That's the best ones.
Of course,
they don't. It's a kid show. You can't say that stuff, but it's a kid show. But parents seem to. I feel like we tapped into something on the show that allows parents will let things go with us. Like there's certain things we do on the show that are kind of they're a little more adult jokes, but like the stuff that I grew up with, Bugs Bunny and those theatrical shorts, they were all about just being funny, not necessarily, certain themes we don't touch on at all just because it's too adult for kids, but we try to not make that the issue. The issue is sort of to just, okay. It's cool in a way because it's more confining. Your comedy's confined to certain rooms, and other rooms are off limits that you just can't do that. So you don't even think about it, So of course, when I'm not making SpongeBob, that's where my mind goes, is to those other rooms. So I like to make stuff in those rooms, but whatever that means. There's I don't know what I'm talking about now. You lost me.
lost
Yeah, I was on it. I was answering a question, right? I was in the middle of, I was doing good, right?
We were talking about Rocko's voice actors, and then we started talking about how you guys fuck around with each other.
Yeah, and we love each other, so that's fun. I wish we could do more. I wish Rocko was a radio show, or something that we could just do every week.
That'd be awesome.
Because it's so much fun with them, and they're just the funniest people ever. I mean, I did stand up and they did it, but they did it for long periods of time. They were more like improv guys. Tom's a total improv guy, and so is Carlos. And sometimes I have to keep kind of run fast to keep up with those guys. But it's always just a pleasure. It's always just giggle town. You're just laughing all the time. It's fun.
That's what I love about this industry.
Can't beat it. Can't beat a job where you're part of it time you're laughing a lot. It's great.
I walk into Filburt. I have 10 classes a week, 2 a day, and I don't walk a day out of. I don't walk out of there a day without laughing my ass off, because we're all fucking around while getting our work done, and that's what I love.
Yeah.
So
that's what gets it. That's what makes it more creative. That's what makes everything. That interaction. Those interactions are sparks. That stuff. Yeah. That stuff fuels everything that we do. I mean, in the writers' room on SpongeBob, it's it's a very we kind of say anything about anything, and we'll call each other out on things and do things that we wouldn't do in another group or with another set of people, or with our families necessarily. It's a different. It's different, but it's also part of the creativity. It's part of it's part of kind of that friendly competition mixed with just genuinely wanting to make somebody laugh, and trying to get them to laugh unexpectedly, is always great. You always feel good when you got somebody really good.
Oh, absolutely.
And then we all feel great because we're just, because it's just so silly. You're thinking about that stuff. And that's the stuff that turns into, it might not be the things we're joking about aren't the joke that we use, but it's all fodder. It's all necessary. It's all part of that great process that, the laughing has to come in. Otherwise, you're writing drama. That's not fun. I don't think people laugh when they write drama in the writer's room as much.
If it's really bad
as
drama,
they do when they're writing comedy. Yeah, that's right.
Well, then you got something there, but
yeah.
Well, you make a good point with being able to collaborate like that and have a good time. I know you had a lot of involvement in developing SpongeBob with Steve. I know Tom was over there a lot. You guys did a lot of recordings for voices and planning things out.
Yeah.
How much involvement would you say you had in creating what is now the show?
Well, that's a good question. There's I mean, with any show, it depends on when you're there, I guess. And I've just been lucky enough. I was there at the beginning of Rocko, and I was there at the beginning of SpongeBob, where everything was just figuring out, it's sort of like getting into a house and it's not furnished. And we're just going, okay, we got the house. Now where are we putting everything? Where's the TV go? Where's the plants? So we spent time at the beginning. It was mostly me, Steven, and Derek Dryman, and we would just sit in a conference room and go talk about our childhoods, talk about what happened to us, things that happened to us. And out of sitting there and talking and going over stuff that happens to us, which became a regular thing for us to just talk about, hey, did anything happen to you this weekend? Anything, with your family, just things we're trying to pill from anything. The show about Rock Bottom, the one where where SpongeBob and Patrick get on the wrong bus, was one where that happened to me. That's one of those situations. We all had that. We all had situations that we put into the show that actually happened to us. And it lent itself, things that happen to you often lend themselves really easily to a nice little story. Mm-hmm. That's another one of my favorites, is Rock Bottom, from the earlier shows. But we spent a lot of time doing that. And then, so as far as my involvement went, I was there for kind of helping decide what stories we were going to make and what the characters' dynamics that were in the Bible already but now how are we going to make that work for real? Like how, now that's a good idea in the Bible of those two characters, but let's now we have to put these two characters together and decide how they react to one another, and who, you know what I mean? All those conflicts that come along with trying to tell the right story with characters and having the conflicts work. You know, like in other words, is this character funny with this character? Or do we get rid of this character and bring in this guy? Because that's a better idea. That's a better, their dynamic works in a more interesting way than, you know, than having those two guys. So it's kind of like a figuring it out. And that's what I was there for at the beginning. Also going over, you know, listening to everybody's voices when we were listening to who was going to play what on the show.
Yeah.
And, you know, that was always kind of a fun part, is being a writer on the show, as well as somebody who's being a voice on the show. So I could always kind of get more into it, you know, or expand upon things that I might not have, you know, I might not have bothered with before, but because I was playing that character, I'm like, ooh, how about this? Let's try this with them, you know? So it became a series of creative outlets all at the same time, really, is what it was working at the beginning, on the beginning of the show. And so the other thing was, the idea at the beginning was I was supposed to actually be a liaison to the storyboard guys, because I was a storyboard director before I was a writer. Mm-hmm. And so I came in as a writer to kind of bridge the gap and talk to everyone and have that together. And then I was going to go, and after what was going to happen was, once I was done with being a writer for that season, I would go then and start directing shows. And I was going to take off like I was doing at Rocko.
Yeah.
And it just, the show took off. There was a lot to do. And I ended up sort of turning down directing some shows. That's something I don't usually talk about, but that's something that I turned it down just because of what was going on in my life at that time. And I was making stuff on this, you know, I was doing my own stuff too. So it was sort of more like, well, this is comfortable doing these 2 jobs instead of having the 3 jobs. So I settled with the 2.
Makes sense.
For then. Yeah. But, you know, since then I've been able to be part of the directing of some live action stuff that we've done, and that way, and I continue directing other things, but it was more of a, you know, that's how it felt, that's what was right at the time, you know, for me to do. But yeah, that was for a while it was just the 3 of us, and then slowly others came into it. For the first few months it was just me and Derek and Steve, and then just laying down what we thought was the thing. And a lot of it for me was you know, we were acting out stuff, which is what I always end up doing, is sort of acting out the gag and standing up and running out of the room, or, you know, jumping under the desk, or, you know, we were sort of feeling out what the characters are going to be like, because truly at that time, we, you know, unlike Rocko, where we knew what the characters were, these were all brand new. We had no idea. We knew that we knew Tom was SpongeBob, and we knew Bill was Patrick, but we'd watch the pilot and just go, okay, now, do we have to stick to that idea in the pilot? Do we have to stick to this? You know, it became a thing of, where are we opening this up?
Yeah.
And how far are we going with the characters, and how far are we going to go with the storytelling? How crazy was it going to be? You know, the tone of the show in general was on the table. So, and that was something that me and Steve and Derek to an extent, but me and Steve started out being the 2. We just got along really well of all the directors, I think, that were on Rocko, and we had similar philosophies about comedy, and similar, we liked a lot of the same stuff. So we always were sort of having the competition between me and Robert Skull and Steve and Mark O'Hare, of wanting to, you know, be funnier than the other ones, you know, and of course rooting on the other ones completely. You know, we were very, very close that way. We wanted everything to be funny, not just us, you know.
Oh, absolutely.
I get that. Yeah, but we had a lot of fun. That was a great first big thing to happen. You know, I was on Ren and Stimpy, but this was, I was only really an animator on that show. So this was like the first time where I was in charge of a unit on Rocko. I know I'm switching all around now.
No, don't worry. It's all as interesting to me as everything in before.
Yeah. So it's all part of that thing. So back to your question, which was, what else did I do on there? I mean, there was a lot of like kind of deciding how the characters were going to be, ones that hadn't spoken yet, ones that we just were on paper. There were a couple sketches. Yeah. So we had to sort of decide how they were going to be, and then get to the actor, tell them what you're thinking, and then try to get them involved and get them to be part of it. Because then they take it and run with it, it's theirs after that. But that was a big part of it, was just sort of deciding what the characters' dynamics were going to be, and what the arc is, if there was one, for first season. Mm-hmm. What do we want to do first season? What's our last episode going to be? What's our middle episode? That kind of stuff. So yeah, it was definitely like being in a biodome, just doing this cartoon for a while. So that was my first. And again, that happened because me and Steve were close on Rocko, and if I had gotten a show going, which I was trying to sell stuff at that time too, then he would have been working on my show. It was just how it went.
I mean, I watched a lot of this stuff because I was really interested, and I remember, you had always said, I think at least you said this when you were working with Steve, if one of us gets this show or you pick up your show, we'll do what we can't do on Rocko there. And you guys kind of combined your ideas into a pool like that.
There was I mean, I don't know if it was conscious, like we had that conversation, but it was definitely something that became obvious that this is sort of what we're doing. Because when we're in the room, we were sort of saying, there was things that there were just things that when you're working on one kind of show and you have a different dynamic of people, certain things certain things are I'm trying to think of what I mean, but it goes a different way, just that dynamic creates a different kind of a writing. And so I think that's what it was there were things sometimes we'd bring up on Rocko that didn't happen for whatever reasons they were, and we thought, oh, now let's do it here. So there were things, so tonally, there were things we were always pushing for with Rocko that I think became, to me, Rocko is really SpongeBob, beforehand. It's kind of like SpongeBob is like Rocko too. Yeah. But that's only to me and the people who worked on both shows who would see that and go, I see how that works. I wouldn't expect anybody else to think that way about it. Because they're very different shows. They're both satires, but I think Rocko's way more cynical and was way more about who we were then. It was about underground comics in the 90s, and we were all looking at that stuff. And very much influenced by that stuff. So it was that's why that show's cool to me too, is because I feel like that was a time period when I was a certain way in those years, and so we were a certain amount of angst going on that shows off, that's funny to me now. I used to have like so many problems. I would get mad at, they look at that. They painted it wrong. And look at this. The timing's crap. And, oh my God, where did you fucking learn to draw? Like stuff like that. And now it's all, I love seeing all of it. It's all nostalgic. I just like it. I like any episode. I think it's all great fun to watch. And I remember it fondly.
That's great. I mean, I can feel the same about some of my own work. I look back at the old shit. I'm like, what is fucking wrong with me? And I'm sure everyone's got that kind of feeling. So,
absolutely. Yeah.
Speaking of old shit, you had an old idea where Plankton's voice was supposed to be SpongeBob's, wasn't it?
Shut your mouth, you mediocre clarinet player. Mediocre?
Didn't you put in an audition tape for that?
No. Well, it was an audition tape, but it was also a. I knew when Steve was working on him and Eric Weiss and Derek John were all in this little cubicle in this place that wasn't at Nickelodeon. It was off campus somewhere else, and it was down in North Hollywood somewhere. And it was in the back of a mall. Like it was actually like, it wasn't for people to go in and make cartoons. It was totally a very corporatized kind of a space.
Yeah.
And they were kind of trapped in that space, trying to make that cartoon. And so I came and visited. I'd come and visit while he was working on it. and see what those guys were doing, because we're all not on the show anymore, by that point.
Yeah.
And so I went to visit a couple times and see what they were doing, see if, always just, see if I could throw out any ideas or whatever. So I knew where they were. And then, Steve was like, hey, I really think you should audition for these characters, audition for this one, you should play. And I think at first he wanted me to do Squidward. He wanted me to imitate a friend of ours and do Squidward, because I do this good imitation of a friend of ours. And when I started doing it, I did an audition for it that way, but I was like, that doesn't feel right. I don't think that's right. And so I'm so glad we found Roger, because he is that guy. He is perfect for Squidward. But I went and I did some auditioning thing for him. I said, I'm going to do some stuff so you can play it for whoever shows up when I'm not here. When you're working on the pilot and some executive shows up or something, somebody needs to see it. Mm-hmm. And so I just did a tape one day in the kitchen. I turned it on and I started ranting with the character just to get an idea of what, how he was going to sound. And then it just kept going down that road. And it started with me doing SpongeBob with the Plankton voice. And then it got really raunchy. It just went really south, like real quick. And so according to Eric, those three guys, they told me that whenever they'd get bad notes from the network, or they'd get pissed at whatever they were doing, they throw this tape on of me ranting and going on in that voice and saying awful things. And they said somebody still had it. We were trying to see if they could find it, because apparently, like I said, I literally was just talking and doing an audition tape, and then I knew it was for them, so I just kept going off the rails. And then when I realized I was on a roll, I just kept going. And I don't know how long it went on for, but it was something that they enjoyed listening to. And then I was screaming. I was mad at something. I went from doing an audition to Plankton just going on about, how the water department is fucking him. It's like something like that. Like just who knows what I'm saying. Department. Yeah. Like I just went in some weird direction. It was one of those days. It was one of those days where I was performing, or I don't remember what was happening, but I was ready to go. So it was a good day for that. So anyway, that's the story of that. 10 minutes later.
That's amazing.
Very fun.
What was something that really got you into doing animation and cartooning and stuff? Like, what was the big thing in your childhood that made you want to do it?
Well, my family was into comedy. So it was very much, they were into so I got to see like all the comedy my dad was into. I got to see all the comedy that my grandfather was into, because they'd show it. My grandfather had like a projector, 8mm projector or 16, and he would project old stuff of Charlie Chaplin, Buster Keaton, Laurel and Hardy, and he'd say, this is what I grew up on. This is what I was into.
Yeah. And
so I loved all that stuff like crazy. And then as I got older, it was sort of like, back then at least, I'm sure it still happens now. Parents show their kids what they liked. Mm-hmm. But my family was really into comedy. So also the Warner Brothers cartoons from the 30s, 40s, 50s, and the Tom and Jerry's, the Tex Avery cartoons from MGM, comedy gold in our house. Everybody couldn't wait. Tex Avery cartoon came on. Oh, it's this one. It's this guy. We knew who that was. We didn't know who he was or what he was about. We just knew that name meant things were going to get fucking crazy, and we loved it. So that was the stuff that got in my blood that I couldn't get out, and to this day, it's still stuff that I still watch those again and get excited about them. But it was a tier, it changed every few years. It was a new thing in my life, another comedy thing that was like precious to me, and each one, when I discovered Saturday Night Live, that was another thing. Oh my God, that show, like they're doing it live, it was, and comedy and all that. And Monty Python came up, and I became infatuated with that in college. There's just a lot of luckily there's been a lot of great guys out there making great comedy to get inspired by. There's been so many things, but for cartoons there became a a time in my life, probably when I was 12, where for some reason I noticed the difference. And like I wanted to draw a comic strip, I think, for like when I was 10, 11.
Mm-hmm.
And then for some reason I noticed, which I'd been watching cartoons forever up to that point, but I noticed there was a difference. Like I knew this animation was really seemed labored over and looked real and looked amazing. And then there was cartoons that at around the same time then that looked awful, and they just looked like, like today. There's always shows. There's shows that look great and they're animated well, and then there's ones that aren't and don't look that great. And there was a lot of stuff like that. But then there was gems. There's amazing things happening at the same time here and there. So it was all kind of pushing me towards that. Like when Roger Rabbit, that movie, that was another one. That was another big one where I went, and that put an animation bomb, that just went off, and everybody was crazy about animation again. Yeah. So, and then The Simpsons came out, and then Ren and Stimpy, which is where that ended up being my first job. So it was all kind of like moving towards that in a big rush. Animation was poised to kind of make a comeback. Mm-hmm. And now it's beloved more than ever, I think, than it ever has been in history, I think.
I think so.
But there's way more fans now than there ever was. And so all that stuff, everything I grew up with a kid, but the stuff in my, kind of adolescence is where I started to notice that I want to do this kind of animation. I want to spend time doing comedy, and hopefully ones that, where the drawing counts, where the drawing, the drawing ethic is there, and people want it. Yeah. And you don't have to have it to make a show, obviously, but
I've seen quite.
But that's the kind of thing. Yeah. But that's what I want to do. And I've been lucky enough to be able to only work on things that I thought were worth it, and I'm on stuff that isn't worth it. And I find that out, a year, 6 months in, I'm like, oh, this was not what I thought it was going to be. But that's how that's just the way it works. You can't always know. So that's why it's great when you work with friends, when you work with people, and you think the same way, you're on the same sort of, just in the same thought process of comedy, like I was with Steve and Derek and Tom and all these guys, when you find that a simpatico kind of a thing, you could feel it. It's very, it starts a fire, and you could feel it all the time. We're onto something. This is working in a way that isn't normal to happen all the time. That's a special time. So I to be involved in at least a few things that were that are something that people actually like, and something that I got to be kind of stretch my whatever talent I have to be able to stretch it further and do whatever I can do to make things funny. That's like sometimes you don't work well on a show. You get into shows and you realize my humor's not fitting this place. The kind of thing I do doesn't work here. And it's always terrible when you find that out, because you gotta quit usually. But that's why it's always great that I was involved in at least a few projects that were, I felt like I was really doing great work, and am proud of my work on those shows.
Well, you talk about the simpatico thing with the people on the writing team. You're lucky enough to be on both sides. What's it like? Is this the same kind of relationship still? You guys work things well together in the recording booth? Like, 'cause I know you're on both ends. So
yeah, we try to do the show like a radio show. We love to be around each other. In fact, one of the most fun we kind of ever have is when the whole group is somewhere together, like off campus. We're all not at the studio. I mean, we love doing the show, but when you're in the show, you find your moments to be fun and have fun and laugh and stuff, because we're obviously on a schedule, and we got to get shit done, and we got to move, and move it. So it's sometimes it could become, kind of, hey, let's go, and not pressurized, but it's a job. Sometimes it's a job, and then other times it's not. And when we're on our own, when we're like going somewhere, like we're being interviewed like this, if we're somewhere in San Diego all together, or New York, or where the places we've been together, it's it's just so comforting to see everybody, to see Carolyn over there and Tom over there and Roger over there. And I think we get it too. I don't know if even Roger would admit it, but but I think he gets a warm feeling about the fact that I know he has, because he said it many times, is that we're linked to each other forever. This is the group, this is like the Seinfeld group or the guys on The Office. They're always going to be known for being associated with that group, with those people. And you always find out, later, you're always happy to find out, oh, they had so much fun on that show because they all liked each other. I always hate it when I find out that people didn't like each other on the show I liked, and I'm always like, oh, come on, but that was so good. You guys were great together, But in our case, it's we really are feel comforted by each other's presence, and I think we love seeing each other there. And in those cases, when we can just hang out and have dinner and talk and stuff, we talk for hours. I'll walk around. Clancy and I have gone on a few road trips together, back and forth to San Diego and other things, because we were pitching stuff together at one point. Bill and I have taken, I don't know why it is, but we've taken long walks together where we've had to go from one hotel to another or something, and we end up having these long philosophical conversations. So, and same thing with Carolyn. I know, Carolyn's like almost like, related to me, in a way. It feels like sometimes, we're just very, close and but not where we're seeing each other every day or that kind of a thing. But when we see each other, it's an instant, it's like we've been in a band for a long time. I'm sure it's like some bands feel about each other who've been together forever and ever and ever, and it still works. We're lucky.
Yeah, definitely. And you guys have also been lucky to work with a lot of guest actors too. And
yeah,
how have they fit in, and who are some of your favorites that have been on the show?
Yeah, some, I'm not going to say who, but some are really like, they just don't, it doesn't work at all. Like they just can't. We've actually gotten some people who are famous on the show who had to be, recast, later. Like we just couldn't make it work. Their energy wasn't matching the energy of the characters.
Yeah.
I remember in the first movie, that when we were shooting, you mentioned before, Neptune and what was her name again? Mindy? Yeah. Scarlett Johansson. She came in, she was a big fan of Rocko. So that was like lots of fun. She made me blush one day. That was very funny. Because she came in telling me, I didn't know you were Filburt. Holy shit. She's like all excited. And she's with her entourage of, friends, that's there with her. It was really funny. And so she, and again, this was something that's nothing against what she did. Just how her reaction to things. We came in and Jeffery Tambor was there. We were all in this big thing there where everyone was sectioned off. You were either in the middle covered with stuff or you're behind glass. So everybody was somewhere, and we were just sitting around looking. I'm going, oh, wow, Jeffery Tambor is right next to me. And there's Scarlett Johansson behind the glass, like right there. And so, and we've talked already, we'd already been talking and everything, but we hadn't done anything yet. We hadn't started doing the voices. So we finally got behind her things. We're all ready. We're going. And the first few lines was SpongeBob and Patrick doing something and Plankton coming in and telling them they're idiots. And it was like, like a lot of bombastic, just like, them doing something and me going, knock it off. Like, it was like this, like, Abbott and Costello routine. Yeah. And it was really funny, and we're doing it, and the whole time we're watching we're watching through the glass. We're doing our thing and going through it, and we're doing retakes and everything. And I kept watching because she was right in front of my eye line. Scarlett Johansson kept looking this, like a pinball machine was going off, and she kept staring at everybody who was talking, and she kept going, oh, like this. And when we got all done, Jeffery Tambor said something to the effect of, wow, you guys are like on another planet of energy. What the hell was that? Like he was like that. And she goes, I don't know if I could do that, guys. She goes like this. She goes into the thing. I don't no, and we're like, no, you're fine. You're going to be great. And we got her in there, but she said it later. She goes, no, it was just mind boggling that the energy you guys just went from nothing, talking normally in the booth to, rah, this thing. Yeah. And I said, yeah, that's what we do. That's the fun of this, is to get into it. And now it becomes second nature. So you don't care who's around. You just, the alien comes out of your chest no matter who's around,
That's true.
And it was so much fun. And again, she was a lot of fun. She was super cool. And so was, that whole situation. But the thing I always take away from it was just somebody like her, like those two people who I admired a lot, being impressed with me, was just like, and with
That's
us,
the coolest thing ever.
What we bring to it. Yeah. And it was really, and we've seen that happen before with others, but this was like, big time celebrities were telling us that we're amazing. And we were like, it was like all of a sudden we were singers, like we were great tenors, or something. And so I took that. I mean, that's one of those things you never forget that sticks with you all the time, that whenever you're feeling like you're having a bad day, that kind of stuff you can think of those things and go, oh, wow, that's right. That happened. That was weird. I don't know if it makes me feel better, but it makes me feel,
it makes you feel like good, at least to remember.
Makes me feel happened. Like, okay, maybe I'm on the right track, that kind of
you should back on track at least.
Yeah.
Who are your favorite celebrity guest stars or whatnot?
Well, those guys were great because they were the first ones I remember being there. But there were, God, there's so many fun ones. There's a lot I didn't meet. I didn't get to meet David Bowie or
really?
Johnny Depp. No, because they didn't come in. They did a patch in from wherever they were.
Oh,
so we didn't get to see them. Some we never got to see.
Ernie and Tim came in though, right?
Who's that?
Ernie and Tim came in, right?
Oh yeah. In fact, well, that was, if I had to pick out my favorite celebrities, that they're definitely that's who I would have whittled it down to, because we got to see them more often, and I was such a huge fan. I mean, I was a fan of Ernest Borgnine for sure.
Mikhail's name.
Just because I know a lot of his movies, because I loved a lot of his movies that I saw that were not my era, but were my other periods before me. I just loved his movies. But Tim Conway was like meeting one of the Pythons, or meeting Richard Pryor or something. It was another guy who you just go, oh wow, like this guy is so funny to me, like so funny, like way up here funny, and to be sitting there with him. And he's he made quips all the time. He's always making quick jokes, at you. No matter what you said to him, his comeback was a joke. He was on all the time, definitely. And then Ernest Borgnine was sort of like, he exploded once, like he talking, hey, yeah. But once we were rolling, and once he came in, then he'd explode into character, and he'd become this mountain. He was a big guy. He was a really big guy, and so fun. It said so many funny, salty things over the years. Both of them are just fun people to know. And they didn't get to know them. We just knew them when we were in the booth with them.
Yeah.
But I remember Ernest Borgnine. I've told this story before, but it was the first time we worked together, and I was behind him in my with my setup, and he was in front, and Tim Conway, they're both like this in front of me. And my first thing was to say, I think it was, oops, just knocked my computer. The first thing was, Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy, defenders of the deep. That was like and it was just like, no one was talking. It was just all, away for the first line, and we're all sitting there, and I just burst out screaming this thing, and it was longer than that. It was like a whole speech I had to say before their line. And so instead of saying their line, they both looked at me, and because they didn't expect me to be that loud, and they expected to be like, what? And Ernest Borgnine just whips his head around at me, and he goes, that came out of you?
That's awesome.
And I almost fell over. It was so funny. I was just like, wow, holy cow, I didn't expect that, you know. So, so it was that was my first time being in the thing. I did not expect it, but it was because, again, my characters usually are, I do a lot of loud characters, so of course that's it startles everyone every so often.
I met Ernie one time, actually.
You did?
I was little. You know Ridgewood in Jersey?
Yeah.
He was down here doing a book signing for his autobiography.
Oh, great.
And I don't know how old I was. Maybe
that's great.
7. And I loved the picture. He was such a nice guy. And he did the evil for us. It was great. It was really sad when I heard he passed away.
Yeah. No, they were sweet. Like I said, very theatrical when they'd come in and you'd be talking to them and stuff. But great people and funny as hell. And I'm also, you're reminding me of Lorraine Newman, also, who plays Plankton's grandma, is also really funny and one of my heroes, you know, from Saturday Night Live. So she's like another one, like, wow, it's Lorraine Newman.
I love
but there's yeah. So I'm trying to think of there's so many different people that have been on the show. I'm trying to think who are the last ones. Gilbert Gottfried, of course, is somebody we've been using more lately for specific things, which we love seeing him. That's always fun. Brad Garrett was really good. He's been on recently. He was awesome. Trying to think of some of the other. There's so many. There's so many coming up here and there that I can't say. But there's other. I'm trying to remember some of the other ones that I really connected with, or.
Were you there for Betty White?
The other celebrities. Betty White, yeah, I got to see her leave, so that was my experience with Betty White. I got to see her go. She went right out the door.
Not many people can say that.
No, she was just finishing when I got in, and instead of introducing to myself, she had like handlers and stuff with her, so I just kind of backed off. But I love her. I think she's super funny. So I would love to talk to her, but never got a chance. Who else was? That's one of those questions I wish I knew ahead of time. Then I would have really thought about it and tried to figure out some other ones. But that's a lot. And you know who've been on the show. There's been so many. Yeah, there have been great guys. I didn't get to meet John Goodman. He came on to do Santa, and I loved him. I love him. And they told I wasn't there that day. I was just out that day doing something somewhere else, and I missed him, so I was really unhappy about that one. But yeah, I'm trying to think. Anyway, I had one in mind. Oh, Johnny Knoxville. Johnny Knoxville was on. He was on too. He's another one I never met. No, I never got. Really? Never got to talk to him. No. Do you think they would? No, there's just certain days when they're on the shows. Yeah, if it's a too big a room that day, if the celebrities coming in, sometimes we don't get to see them. I got to meet John Hamm, for instance, but I didn't get to work with him because I wasn't in that episode, but I happened to be there for something else that day and got to meet him and take pictures with him. You know what I mean? Yeah. There's always new people showing up. Aquafina was the last person I remember. She was for the third movie. Got to meet her for a second. I wish that movie was coming out in theaters. I was planning on going seeing it back in May. Go figure, not. But no, yeah. The last time I saw a SpongeBob movie in theaters was in 2004. I was 2 years old and I saw it twice. I convinced my parents to go back. Yeah. I saw it many times myself. I was big on SpongeBob, and I always have been. So. Oh, that's awesome. Sure. This is just a quick question. My friend wanted to know. He was really. I told him I was going to do this interview with you. Oh, cool. His name's Stefan, and I actually was wondering this too. And you're potty now, aren't you? Yes. How did it go from? I'm Steve, the third person to play potty. Yeah. How did that come about? How did it go from Steve to Paul to you? Well, I'm so glad you brought up potty because that's one of the characters I created for the show. Really? There was just Patchy by himself. Yeah, Patchy was by himself, and that was amongst the stuff that I was doing right when we started. Besides that Scaredy Pants show, I was writing stuff to convince the network that Patchy the pirate would work on the show, because at the time it was something that was in the Bible, but the studio wasn't sure about doing live action. They were kind of like, I don't know about that. And so we had to I had to write up a bunch of stuff to convince them that this was a good idea. Yeah. And I did a few sketches of Patchy with weird hats, I remember. And in those sketches, I started drawing a parrot. And I just remember in one of the meetings, I said, hey, Patchy needs a pirate, like marionette. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, let's do that. It was like one of those quick whatevers. Yeah. And then when I sat down to write Potty, the name Potty came out. That's when I was sitting there going, and it's always me being mischievous. Like, they're not going to, this network's not going to say yes to that. But here you go. He's Potty the pirate. And they didn't say anything. So it was fine. But yeah, it started off with Steve doing it, and he did it till he left the show. So, and then the new the showrunner who took over for Steve was Paul Tibbett. He took it over because he was there, because it seemed to be like a traditional thing to do. Mm-hmm. And then on this roll around, Paul's not there. And the new guys who, Mark and Vincent, who are the showrunners now, yep. They don't do voices. They do them for scratch and stuff like that, but they didn't want to have to do that. They were like, we don't want to do that. And really? It came up. Yeah. Because it's another thing in the schedule. It's another thing you have to make time for. True. I'm a voiceover actor. So I remember saying, I think they said, who's going to do it? And I said, I'll do it. Like, I was just like, I guess I'll have to do it, that kind of a thing, making a joke out of it. And it's probably one of the hardest things I have to do, because I really have to break my voice to do it. It hurts to do that character. Really? Yeah. It just really, it just completely tears your vocal cords, or at least it tears mine up. Mm. And so it's hard. It's a hard one, but I carry on the tradition. I carried on. I got the torch. So I'm Potty. And we've done more with him and Patchy lately. You're going to see more stuff with them in the future, coming up more into the shows and doing stuff. Yeah. Those are fun segments. So, but yeah. We always love that. We did there's one I'll tell you about that we didn't do, which was a Halloween episode where there was going to be an angry mob of kids that basically get a hold of Patchy because he didn't have candy to give out. I can't remember why, but he's so they end up stringing him up. They actually tie him up, and he's like hanging upside down on the porch, and they're telling him, you want to give us candy now? It's like that kind of a thing. That's awesome. So it was this whole running bit about these kids just abusing Patchy, and we unfortunately that was going to be in the stop motion Halloween show that we did. Which I'm also very proud of. I love that one. Oh, that one was Screen Novelties. That one was great. Yeah. I love Brian Doyle Murray. I love that. Yeah. He's so good now. Yeah, Brian Doyle Murray, also another great celebrity guy that I love seeing and working with. Lots of fun. Such a sweet guy. Flying Dutchman might be one of my favorites. So. Yeah, me too. Yeah, we love him. So that's what was I saying? Oh, what was I saying? We were talking about Patchy getting strung up in the. That's right. Yeah, right. So it was a running joke with that, but we had to cut it out because there was too much. The stop motion was such a big task that we sort of just decided to scrap the Patchy stuff in that one. Yeah. But Mike, who knows? Might come back. We're always trying to do stuff and cram Patchy in there and Potty. We always like doing little things with them. So we'll probably see more of them in the future. But yeah, Potty's legacy lives on. I have to carry on the tradition of the Legend of Potty. That's awesome. Well, that's just for time constraints. Well, I guess if you have time, we'll do this again in the future. But sure. Just to kind of end it, and I don't know how much you want to answer on this because I don't know how touchy it is for you. Just what was your reaction with when Steve passed away? What happened in your mind that day? Well, he had been sick for a while, so it wasn't a surprise. It was a surprise surprise, you know, like it's always a surprise when something like that happens, but it wasn't a surprise like we didn't know it was all coming for a long time. So it was more just it wasn't shocking, it was more just sad, you know, the outrushing of sadness of, you know, losing somebody who you've been watching get, you know, but it was sort of his therapy was being with us, so it was kind of part of what it was all about. And then he disappeared, you know, then he not disappeared, but he couldn't be at the studio at a certain point, and then, you know, doctor's orders had to be home, so then we didn't see him for a while until he finally passed. But but we knew it was coming. It's because he didn't talk about it, but the other people in his family knew what was going on, and they, you know, they told us more or less what was going on.
Yeah.
So it was horrible. Of course, it can't be anything else. But you know, our show is been carrying on the tradition of what we kind of started doing way back when, and that's you know, we're lucky to still be here. Most shows get canceled after a while, you know.
Yeah.
And Steve was around towards the end with us. He saw what we were doing, and he saw that we were, you know, we needed to take new directions with the show these last few seasons. You know, we needed to say, okay, we've done that to death. We need to do this now. We need to do these new ideas, and that was fun having Steve be there when he was watching us, you know, expand on characters and do things we hadn't done before. So, so you know, we're in it as long as the audience wants it, you know, as long as they're still into it, we'll still be serving it up, you know. So we you know, and that's the tradition of the show. It's the tradition of the comedy. It's the tradition of keeping on what Steve started, and you know, what we all sort of brought together at the time, at the beginning of it, you know, just all the energy that was there. I feel like the energy we've been capturing it and keeping it going over the years, but I think lately it's been like even a bigger supernova of creativity lately. Just so many great things, so many great moments, great artists, great, you know, just having fun, but also, you know, feeling really like we're contributing to animation in some way, you know, that we're not just making a show, we're actually trying to make it something special that seems like an event each time we put out something, you know. So yeah, that's the most I can say about that.
Well, thank you so much for actually being able to talk about that. It means a lot that you could. So, but definitely.
Yeah, I don't get to talk about. I don't talk about it too often, of course. But it's part of the. It's part of life. It's part of our situation every day. So it's, you know, it's something we all have to deal with. But again, we make a comedy show, and that's what we're always hoping to do, is those moments like this where I'm, you know, sad about Steve, that somebody else is sad else, and we made him laugh that day. You know, we made him, cheer him up. We see a lot of people telling us that, and that's, you know, so if there's any legacy, you know, a true legacy to the show, that's it, to keep it funny, to bring something to people so they forget about the shitty things in their lives and that are in life in general, you know, that you can't avoid. But, you know, if you get a couple moments to sit back and laugh for a while, it's like, so good for you know, just so good for not just therapeutically, but just in general. It's good for your body. It's good for your everything. To be able to really to have times where you're really laughing is, you know, and to do that kind of thing and be someone who does something like that, because it's arbitrary. Some people don't think you're funny at all. You know, making the show for 20 years. Some people think it's crap. This is true. You can't stop that. You know, you can't stop that. That's just the way it is. It's just aesthetically, some people don't like this kind of comedy that we do. But luckily, lots of people do really like it, and that's where we feel like we owe it to those people who like it a lot to sweat a little when we do this show. You know, I'm always drenched when I come out of the recording booth, and same thing goes for the end of the day when I'm really writing or you know, working on whatever the show is in other capacities. I'm still, you know, we're still sweating it out. We're still worried. You know, we want it to be good, and so that's the tradition we're going to keep carrying on.
A good one it is. So commend all of you for that.
And that is my final answer.